All right, this is the rest of The Outsiders, starting on page 14 of the PDF that I shared with you. So, continuing from where we left off yesterday. I was still thinking about it while I was doing my homework that night. I had to read Great Expectations for English, and that kid Pip, he reminded me of us. The way he felt marked lousy because he wasn't a gentleman or anything, and the way that girl kept looking down on him. That happened to me once. One time in biology, I had to dissect a worm and the razor wouldn't cut, so I used my switchblade. The minute I flicked it out, I forgot what I was doing, or I would never have done it. This girl right beside me kind of gasped and said, "They are right, you are a hood." That didn't make me feel so hot. There were a lot of socs in that class. I get put into A classes because I'm supposed to be smart, and most of them thought it was pretty funny. I didn't, though. She was a cute girl. She looked really good in yellow. We deserve a lot of our trouble, I thought. Dallas deserves everything he gets, and should get worse. If you want the truth. And 2-Bit, he doesn't really want or need half the things he swipes from stores. He just thinks it's fun to swipe everything that isn't nailed down. I can understand why Soda Pop and Steve get into drag races and fight so much, though. Both of them have too much energy, too much feeling, with no way to blow it off. "Rub harder, Soda," I heard Derry mumbling. "You're going to put me to sleep." I looked through the door. Soda Pop was giving Derry a back rub. Derry is always pulling muscles. He roofs houses and he's always trying to carry 2 bundles of roofing up the ladder. I knew Soda would put him to sleep because Soda can put about anyone out when he sets his head to it. He thought Derry worked too hard anyway. Anyway, I did too. Derry didn't deserve to work like an old man when he was only 20. He had been a real popular guy in school. He was captain of the football team, and he had been voted Boy of the Year. But we just didn't have the money for him to go to college. Even with the athletic scholarship he won, and now he didn't have time between jobs to even think about college. So he never went anywhere and never did anything anymore, except work out at gyms and go skiing with some old friends of his sometimes. I rubbed my cheek where it had turned purple. I had looked in the mirror, and it did make me look tough, but Derry had made me put a Band-Aid on the cut. I remembered how awful Johnny had looked when he got beat up. I had just as much right to use the streets as the socs did, and Johnny had never hurt them. Why did the socs hate us so much? We left them alone. I nearly went to sleep over my homework trying to figure it out. Soda Pop, who had jumped into bed by this time, yelled sleepily for me to turn off the light and get to bed. When I finished the chapter I was on, I did. Lying beside Soda, staring at the wall, I kept remembering the faces of the socs as they surrounded me, that blue Madras shirt the blonde was wearing, and I could still hear a thick voice. "Need a haircut, greaser?" I shivered. "You cold, pony boy?" "A little," I lied. Soda threw one arm across my neck. He mumbled something drowsily. "Listen, kiddo, when Derry hollers at you, he don't mean nothing. He just got more worries than somebody his age ought to. Don't take him serious. You dig, pony? Don't let him bug you. He's really proud of you because you're so brainy. It's just because you're the baby. I mean, he loves you a lot. Savvy?" "Sure," I said, trying for Soda's sake to keep the sarcasm out of my voice. "Soda?" "Yeah?" "How come you dropped out?" I never have gotten over that. I could hardly stand it when he left school. "'Cause I'm dumb. The only things I was passing anyway were auto mechanics and gym." "You're not dumb." "Yeah, I am. Shut up and I'll tell you something. Don't tell Derry, though." "Okay." "I think I'm going to marry Sandy. After she gets out of school and I get a better job and everything. I might wait till you get out of school, though, so I can still help Derry with the bills and stuff." "Tough enough. Wait till I get out, though, so you can keep Derry off my back." "Don't be like that, kid. I told you he don't mean half of what he says." "You in love with Sandy? What's it like?" He sighed happily. "It's real nice." In a moment his breathing was light and regular. I turned my head to look at him, and in the moonlight he looked like some Greek god come to earth. I wondered how he could stand being so handsome. Then I sighed. I didn't quite get what he meant about Derry. Derry thought I was just another mouth to feed and somebody to holler at. Derry love me? I thought of those hard, pale eyes. Soda was wrong for once, I thought. Derry doesn't love anyone or anything, except maybe Soda. I didn't hardly think of him as being human. I don't care, I lied to myself. I don't care about him either. Soda's enough, and I'd have him until I got out of school. I don't care about Derry, but I was still lying and I knew it. I lie to myself all the time, but I never believed me. Chapter 2. Dally was waiting for Johnny and me under the streetlight at the corner of Pickett and Sutton. And since we got there early, we had time to go over the drugstore and the shopping center and goof around. We bought Cokes and blew the straws at the waitress, and walked around eyeing things that were lying out in the open until the manager got wise to us and suggested we leave. He was too late, though. Dally walked out with 2 packages of Cools under his jacket. Then we went across the street and down Sutton a little way to the Dingo. There are a lot of drive-ins in town. The Socs go to the way out into Rusty's, and the Greasers go to the Dingo and to Jay's. The Dingo is a pretty rough hangout. There's always a fight going on there, and once a girl got shot. We walked around talking to all the Greasers and hoods we knew, leaning in car windows or hopping into the back seats and getting in on who was running away and who was in jail and who was going with who and who could whip who and who stole what and when and why. We knew about everybody there. There was a pretty good fight while we were there between a big 23-year-old greaser and a Mexican hitchhiker. We left when the switchblades came out because the cops would be coming soon, and nobody in his right mind wants to be around when the fuzz show. We crossed Sutton and crossed around behind Spencer's Special, the discount house, and chased 2 junior high kids across the field for a few minutes. By then it was dark enough to sneak in over the back fence of the nightly double drive-in movie. It was the biggest in town and showed 2 movies every night, and on weekends 4. You could say you were going to the nightly double and have time to go all over town. We all had the money to get in. It only costs $0.25 if you're not in a car. But Dally hated to do things the legal way. He liked to show that he didn't care whether there was a law or not. He went around trying to break laws. He went on the rows of seats in front of the concession stand to sit down. Nobody else was there except 2 girls who were sitting down front. Dally eyed them coolly, then walked down the aisle and sat right behind them. I had a sick feeling that Dally was up to his usual tricks, and I was right. He started talking, loud enough for the 2 girls to hear. He started out bad and got worse. Dallas could talk awful dirty if he wanted to, and I guess he wanted to them. To then. I felt my ears get hot. Two-Bit or Steve or even Soda would have gone right along with him, just to see if they could embarrass the girls. But the kind of kicks just doesn't appeal to me. I sat there, struck dumb, and Johnny left hastily to get a Coke. I wouldn't have felt so embarrassed if they had been greasy girls. I might even have helped out Dallas. But those 2 girls weren't our kind. They were tough-looking girls, dressed sharp and really good-looking. They looked about 16 or 17. One had short, dark hair, and the other had long red hair. The redhead was getting mad, or scared. She sat up straight and she was chewing hard on her gum. The other one pretended not to hear Dally. Dally was getting impatient. He put his feet up on the back of the redhead's chair, winked at me, and beat his own record for saying something dirty. She turned around and gave him a cool stare. "Take your feet off my chair and shut your trap." Boy, she was good-looking. I'd seen her before. She was a cheerleader at our school. I'd always thought she was stuck up. Dally merely looked at her and kept his feet where they were. "Who's gonna make me?" The other one fumed around and watched us. "That's the greaser that jockeys for the Slash J sometime," she said, as if we couldn't hear her. I'd heard the same tone a million times. "Greaser, greaser, greaser." Oh yeah? I'd heard that tone before too many times. What are they doing in a drive-in without a car, I thought. And Dallas said, "I know you 2. I've seen you around rodeos." It's a shame you can't ride bull half as good as you think. It's a shame you can't ride bull half as good as you talk about it, the redhead said coolly, and turned back around. That didn't bother Dally in the least. "You 2 barrel race, huh?" "You better leave us alone," the redhead said in a biting voice, "or I'll call the cops." "Oh my, Dally looked bored. "You've got me scared to death. You ought to see my record sometime, baby," he grinned slyly. "Guess what I've been in for?" "Please leave us alone," she said. "Why don't you be nice and leave us alone?" Dally grinned roguishly. I'm never nice. Want a Coke? She was mad by then. I wouldn't drink it if I was starving in the desert. Get lost, Hood. Dallas merely shrugged and strolled off. The girl looked at me. I was half scared of her. I'm half scared of all nice girls, especially Socs. Are you going to start in on us? I shook my head, wide-eyed. No. Suddenly she smiled. Gosh, she was pretty. You don't look the type. What's your name? I wish she hadn't asked me that. I hated to tell people my name for the first time. Ponyboy Curtis. Then I waited for the, "You're kidding," or "That's your real name?" or one of the other remarks I usually get. Ponyboy's my real name, and personally, I like it. The redhead just smiled. That's an original and lovely name. My dad was an original person, I said. I've got a brother named Soda Pop, and it says so on his birth certificate.